All right, Marietje, here, the view, it seems like the idea of a no Brexit, and plus the letters that have been sent to, by the MEPs to the British people, the idea of a no Brexit, it seems to be favoured on this side of the channel. But isn't it also the case that indeed whatever the result of the referendum has to be respected?
Sure, but that's been the work that has been carried out over the past 2 years. It is a negotiation between 28 governments, where the 27 that intend to remain in the European Union agree.
But there's still hope that they will stay.
Maybe some people. I think a lot of people on this side would have preferred the UK to stay in the European Union. I mean, that's no secret, but we were not asked. It was the British people, and indeed justice has to be done to that vote. It was a simple vote on a very complex issue, and I think the internal debate on what it actually means, reflected in what parliamentarians don't want, shows how little thinking there has been about what should happen in the future. And I think it's actually quite shocking that you say, and I'm happy that you know your colleagues, but that you say a lot of them will decide at the last minute. I mean, that's interesting because this deal has been on the table for a long time. The EU 27 have been consistent in where they stand. So I would hope that people have given significant thought to this significant vote and that it will not be a last minute kind of tossing a coin sort of decision, because the consequences of rejecting this deal or accepting this deal are both very fundamental for the British people first and foremost, because it has been their vote in the referendum that is now being carried out. But I think a lot of new facts have come to the table since that referendum vote.
Yeah.
And although a lot of people don't like the deal that Theresa May has put on the table, it's not very clear that they disagree for the same reason.
And also, indeed, we have been hearing a lot of different opinions, rallying cries, I would call them, in fact. And today, not one, but in fact two of Theresa May's former Brexit secretaries came out today, urging their colleagues to vote against her deal. And this is what they had to say earlier.
The Prime Minister and other government ministers spent their time defending this proposed deal, not on the grounds of its merits, but on the grounds that if you don't have that deal, you have either no deal or no Brexit. And this is simply untrue. Indeed, it's facile.
If you look at the exchange of letters, there were some warm words, but actually they were unequivocal. They were explicit that nothing in those exchange of letters altered in any way the legal consequence of what is in the withdrawal agreement and therefore the Northern Ireland Protocol.
Well, it doesn't seem like they fall into the category of supporters of Mrs. May. So what do you make of what they're saying last minute now?
Well, indeed, they're not supporters of the
of
Prime
course.
Minister. They resigned from their
course.
cabinet, clearly. So I would expect those two members of Parliament, very senior members, one of whom who represents a constituency.
Are their moves influential? Are their opinions influential?
In my region, I'd expect them to say exactly what they have said. And clearly, yes, that there is a body of opinion within Westminster who those two members of Parliament represent. I wasn't suggesting a moment ago for a second that this is a flippant judgment that members of Parliament will arrive at. Far from it. However, for those who have got concerns with this particular agreement, tonight's the night. Tonight's the night where they can make a choice and vote quickly and speedily for a plan to leave the European Union or vote for uncertainty. And that's why I am so sure that quite a number more than we're thinking at the moment will vote for certainty and surety and the Prime Minister's plan, despite the fact that there's a whole range of issues in it which I may not agree with. The Prime Minister doesn't particularly like some of those elements as well, but nevertheless, this is what the compromise has brought to the fore.
I mean, this is such a big night, a big vote. We heard that there's some people gathering in pubs actually watching, who want to watch the vote. What is the general feeling, do you think, Marietje, from this side as we watch that vote?
I think there's sadness. There has been for a while. I mean, remember all those promises that the Brexiteers made, that it was going to be glorious, that it was going to be simple. What I don't hear, neither from these two former secretaries, is what they anticipate will happen by a rejection of the deal that the Prime Minister has negotiated on behalf of the United Kingdom with the 27 other member states. I think that there's no acknowledgement in none of the comments that we heard of what kind of chaos can happen in, the stock markets, on the roads, uncertainty about what people's rights and obligations are, how trade is going to look.
And maybe a perceived freedom in having trade deals, either make it easier to make trade deals. I don't know, is that a fallacy?
Well, it's not only about trade deals, but also about trade-offs. So how is a future trade relation with the EU going to relate what you can negotiate with others? And it's all presented, Brexit as well as future trade deals, as well as the benefits, as simple, easy and glorious. And I think that is unfair for the people who have been led to believe that this was all going to be, a good news show. It is not. And when I listen to these two former Brexit secretaries, I really think about a Dutch saying that says the best captains are always the ones that are standing ashore. It is so easy to comment from the sidelines. And that is what we've heard in the UK over and over again. And I feel sad for the British people that have believed these empty promises and that are not being prepared for the potential chaos that can come.
I think there's been a lot of, as you were saying, a lot of opinion out there, and it can get quite confusing for people to understand exactly what's going on or what the repercussions are. And indeed, there is a battle for votes, for the influence over the minds of the British voters, and it's also playing out on the pages of social media, on Facebook in particular. And both sides have been spending money to get an edge on today's vote. Alex Morgan and our team in the Cube have more on this part of the story. Alex.
Well, Tessa, the direct battle for votes might be going on in the corridors of power in Westminster, but this is the digital front, the social front. Here we are talking about organisations on both sides spending big to try and win the argument on social media. Now, how do we know this? Well, we're talking specifically about Facebook. And ever since October, as part of their new aim to be transparent, Facebook have published this. It's their ad library report. It allows you to delve in and have a look at who is paying for what when it comes to adverts related to politics and what they call issues of national importance. And you can see, since October, the running total, over £1 million has been spent on the platform. That's cumulatively, that's everybody together, on just over 13,405 adverts at this stage. So who are the big spenders? Well, let's look at the top list, if you like. And Facebook have put this together, this going back to October. Number one, the People's Vote UK. That is, of course, a campaign arguing for a second referendum. They have spent, well, let's have a scroll along. They've spent £222,639 on ads. That's bringing you to just under 2,000 adverts. So what do these look like and how can you spot them? How do you spot a political ad on Facebook? Well, let's just show you. This is an example. This on the Facebook ad database. You can search this yourself too. It is fully open to the public. These are some of the active ads from the People's Vote, for example. You'll see sponsored. These posts will be listed as sponsored and then paid for by. This will allow you to click through and have a look. A lot of these posts here urging people to obviously get on and contact their MPs. But also, let's just go back to those the top spenders, if you like. Also in there, worthy of note, number 3 is the UK government spending over £100,000 of taxpayers' money trying to convince people to get behind the deal. But in the last week specifically, the number 1 spender is a lesser-known organisation called Britain's Future. Now, who are they? Well, they are campaigning against the Brexit deal in favour of what they call a clean Brexit, but other people might call a hard Brexit. In other words, leaving the EU on rather more dramatic terms. They think Theresa May's deal is set as a bit of a sellout, if you like. Let's just show you who they are. We don't know exactly who is behind it. We know they've spent the most in the week before, last week, leading up to this vote. These kind of posts urging people to contact their MPs to reject this deal. We're seeing a lot of this, trying to influence the vote by getting people to write to their MPs to reject the vote. We do know there's one public figure, I'll just finish on this, one public figure linked to this campaign, Tim Dawson, that's his name. He's a screenwriter, but other than that, and after several attempts to contact them, we don't really know who else could be behind this group, who've been the biggest spenders last week. But you can see here, the digital front, things are full on. So while in the corridors of power, people might be trying to win over votes, on Facebook, the argument is non-stop.
Thank you for that to Alex and our team in the Cube. Marietje, I'll go to you. Has it come to this? Who speaks the loudest on social media? Who spends the most?
Well, did Facebook sponsor this item?
Ah, well.
It could well be. It could well be, because what I think is good is that we talk about who pays for messages. In the Brexit campaign leading up to the referendum, of course, this was completely intransparent. And now we only know what has been put in this database on Facebook. So I think the stakes of what is being communicated on social media and whether it's transparent are very, very high. And we need to know who's paying for messages, but we need to know much more about the algorithms behind the business models of advertising platforms, which is really what Facebook is, and how they're influencing our democracy. And I think no matter on what side you stand on Brexit, this is what you should really want, that people cannot be tricked or lied to about something so important as their fundamental right to vote.
All right. On that note, we have a lot more coming up on Raw Politics. So we will ask MEPs here in Strasbourg if there are any lessons to be learned from Brexit. Plus, saving Europe one hoodie at a time. As British MPs vote on leaving Europe, we talk to a Belgian clothing designer dedicated to keeping the EU together. That's coming.